There's a very simple way of generating countless linear exercises for your drum fills, which are almost always guaranteed to sound natural and generally make sense, but at the same time, they have the capacity to build your linear skills to a level that you never thought was possible for you. In my experience, it's the simplest ideas that make the most compelling phrases when it comes to drum fills, and hopefully what I'm about to show you will give you access to your own creativity and style. Let's create a linear drum fill using only single strokes in the bass drum. First, we start with an empty set. We add a crash on the next available one, and here's how that sounds. Even this sounds okay for a drum fill, but we need to make it a bit more exciting. Let's look at each quarter separately. So we have first, second, third, and fourth positions. We'll now substitute each available position with a bass drum, and we get these four options. Let's define the sticking so we have consistency. This will become critical very soon. Each time the bass drum replaces a hand strike, it takes away that letter, but the other positions are unaffected. The first position will always remain in the right hand, so we can always expect the crash to be in the right hand. I'm assuming here that you're right-handed. Now that we have this out of the way, let's see what we can do with these. Let's start simple and just populate all the quarter notes with option 1. Now just add the crash at the end. But wait, Georgie, you said we are only gonna use single hits. I know I said we'll only use single strokes, but it's just, that's life, man. This time you'll have a double bass drum hit. I'm sorry. I have a separate video on the doubles in the bass drum. You might find it useful. Okay, good, but we have these toms here, and they're feeling kind of lonely. So let's make a new rule. Each new quarter will start on the next drum. And here's to your first linear drum fill. Let's continue with the other options. For variation 2, we get this. Piece of advice: if you want to get good at drum fills, always mind the very end of the drum fill. You can get better at this by practicing the very end of the fill going into the crash. Okay, so if we want to use the toms in the drum fill, we get this. We will call this the natural variation. But to be honest, I would prefer if the 3 hits in the hands are on the same drum. So I add this sub-rule. The 3 hits in the hands will be on the same drum, regardless of how that relates to each new quarter. And we will call this the altered version. Let's see that again. We'll think of each instance of hand hits as the domain for each drum. The first right hand lands on the snare. For the next 3 hits, we move to the first tom, then on the second tom, and then on the third tom. Now if you only have 3 toms, you have run out of toms. So you start the circle again, and the remainder of 2 hits goes on the snare drum. Once more, we practice the very end of the fill before the crash. Very nice, that's 2 drum fills now. Let's look at the third one. Right away you notice that this one starts with the bass drum. As the bass drum takes away the right hand hit, we can expect more left hand action. Make sure you mind this carefully. The brain tends to default to the easiest possible option. The brain tends to default to whatever is most comfortable. So if you're not conscious of the sticking, you might find that you're doing it wrong and playing 3 hits starting with your right hand. In option 3, the bass drum occupies the first position, which is sort of like the natural position for a bass drum to be. So right away that's an advantage because you know that there is no remainder at the end of the fill and the access to the crash comes more naturally. Let's move on. In the fourth option, the bass drum occupies the third position. So again, it takes away a right hand and again we can expect more action in the left hand. you might notice a constant struggle between the right leg and the right arm for supremacy on the downbeats. Let's see how this one pans out when we involve the toms in the natural version. In the altered version, playing the 3 hits in the hands on the same drum, we get this. As with all exercises, it's the best idea to play one tempo for a while until you become solid at it, and then raise the tempo, and even then raise it with small amounts and fixed amounts, and then go to the next step and next step. There is a remainder of 1 hit in the left hand before the crash, and you can place it on the 4th tom or on the snare drum. Okay, so we have 4 fundamental drum fills. Let's hear them again. Each variation will have a unique sound and feel to it, and learning to differentiate between the 4 will help you vastly once you start combining them into more complex structures. And we're gonna work on this in the next video. See you next time.